Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a good day. And above all else, that you're looking after yourselves and one another. Ladies and gentlemen, the gang is back for day 5 of Triple Play. Now, the idea of Triple Play is that we each have picked a band that at some point in their career had a run of 3 albums that we think are great. Again, not perfect, but great albums. So, along for this ride, I have Mr. Ken Cheshire. How's it going, Ken?
Going well. Thanks for having me back.
Always a pleasure. Mr. Bill Schuster. How's it going, Bill?
Doing great, Armando. Glad to be here again.
That you're back. And the one and only Mr. Jim Bricker. How's it going, Jim?
I'm doing very well, sir. Having a good time with y'all.
Yeah. No, we're having a good time. This is a good idea. And again, thank you to Much Music Canada for giving me the inspiration for this idea. Um, now, again, we've each picked a band that, again, that we feel had a run of 3 albums that were, if not perfect, at least great albums. So I will pass the mic as I see on my screen down to Jim for his pick of day 5.
Okay. Yeah. I'm picking Peter Gabriel today, gosh darn it. I'm going with Peter Gabriel 3, Security, and So. Um, Boy, these 3 records. So Peter Gabriel 3, first, all these 3 records are very, very different, but yet there's like no other person that probably could have made these 3 records. Uh, Peter Gabriel 3 is very dark, and it kind of starts right off from just looking at the cover with the black and white melting face on it. Um,
Yeah.
Peter has issues, as I think the folks from Atlantic Records had said. They suggested he seek therapy. Um, the songs here are very powerful, very dark, very disturbing. One of them is about uh, could be about Lee Harvey Oswald. One of them is, about uh, basically a very nefarious peeping Tom. Another one is about, oh my gosh, South African apartheid oppression. Um, there's not a lot of light and joy in this album, but there are some tremendous musical highlights. Um, First and foremost, it's the birth of gated reverb. So the 80s drum sound that came to become epitomized with Phil Collins. You can thank Peter Gabriel and Hugh Padgham for coming up with that mix to get that gated drum sound in there. Um, this album is filled with outstanding guest musicians: Phil Collins, Kate Bush, Robert Fripp, Paul Weller.
Oh, yeah.
Um, uh, I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch in there, but No Self Control, Games Without Frontiers, Intruder, 3 very powerful tracks. And like I said, this whole album has a very dense, it's very dense, it's very heavy.
Yeah.
Uh, Again, if you just finished listening to Taylor Swift, this would be a 180, an extreme 180 to go to this. Um,
No
Sorry,
comment.
just had to mention Taylor Swift in there because I know how much Armando enjoys the the dulcet
Oh,
tones of Miss Tay Tay.
I was
I hear
gonna
she has
Uh,
some real ass shaker of songs too.
that's true. So much so that it shakes off.
This
as
is
I
your
just said.
music den bingo, folks. When you hear these phrases, don't take a drink or you'll eventually be dead from alcohol poisoning. Just throwing that out there.
As I just said again. Go on.
Go on. Security, released in 1982. It's a movement out of the darkness and oppression of Gabriel 3 a little bit. Um, the samples and the rhythms are becoming heavier, yet the content somehow seems lighter, and I think that's because of the synths and the sampling that's in there.
Mhm.
The San Jacinto, because of the what sounds like the sampling of glass tinks or something, just with the whole Native American Indian vibe to it. It's it just gives the song, a lightness. I Have the Touch certainly is about communicating and reaching with other people. It's very upbeat. Um, Kiss of Life, another great upbeat tune that ends the album. But of course, Shock the Monkey is the big hit from this monster.
Yeah.
It's this album. I was watching a reaction video the other day of a couple of guys who were late 20s, and they hadn't heard Shock the Monkey before, and hearing it through them, they were just saying how dated the song is, how just 80s it is. And and I hadn't considered that before, but just because of all the fairlights and the samples and the drum sounds and stuff, it does have an 80s sound to it, but yet it's so freaking good that it doesn't kind of get mired down in that. She Blinded Me with Science is another song to me that sounds very, very 80s, but yet it's so good it kind of transcends out of that and can live in this decade, excuse me, and people would enjoy it just the same. Um, and then I'm going to finish off with So. I suppose technically I could have inserted Birdie in there as the soundtrack, but I'm
Yeah.
just skipping the soundtracks for now.
Mhm.
So as much as I love Gabriel 3 and as much as I love Security, I think So is just the best album of the three. Um, I, the production, the songwriting, the creativity, the themes, it's just something that I gravitate to more and more. Like if I want to listen to Peter Gabriel, this is the one I'm going to go to. If I want to listen to something that's heavy and morose, I'm going to go with 3. If I want to hear something that's kind of experimental and of its time a little bit, then I'll probably listen to Security. But So with, Red Rain and Sledgehammer and Don't Give Up, I mean, it's just an amazing record from start to finish.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think 3, Security, and So may not be quite a mic drop of 3 excellent albums the way the Springsteen selections were, but um, it's hard to argue with that, with the quality of that run of records to me.
I would agree. I would agree. My only comment to that, I do find So to be a good mix, a cross between, straightforward mainstream pop and what I would call art rock. Like
Sure.
the work he did with the track he did with Laurie Anderson
Hmm.
on the album. I forget the name of it now.
This Is the Picture.
This Is the Picture. Okay. I think it's, and even the song Red Rain. I think it's just a good mix, like a good cross section, cross between both I guess genres. Um, you know, no, it's a
Hmm.
good choice. Good choice. All right, Bill.
Bill. Let's see here.
Hmm.
What's Bill gonna do? All right.
Uh-oh. I'm
I know
enjoying.
what Bill's gonna do. He's gonna do like he did last episode and continue from where Armando left off the previous day.
Oh.
In fact, he's going to continue exactly where Armando left off.
Get your own material. Okay, go on, go on.
I did say yesterday that Houses of the Holy is my favorite Zeppelin album, and the Rain Song is my favorite Zeppelin song, but it's not on my list. It could have been because I think this is one of those catalogs you could pick any run of 3 throughout their 8 original albums. So I'm picking the last 3. I'm picking Physical Graffiti, Presence, and In Through the Outdoor.
Ooh.
Those last 2 albums don't get near enough love. They take a lot of flack and have for a long time, but I think they deserve to be included with the rest. In fact, I vastly prefer them over the first 2. Still love those first 2, but they're kind of still finding themselves then. They're not quite as wildly creative as they would become with Zeppelin 3 and onward. Physical Graffiti, I think everything that's one of those. It's often thrown right there. It's between that and Four for many people as the best Zeppelin album.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people that are remote Zeppelin fans know the story of it. It's a mix of new material and old cuts that didn't quite make the cut on previous albums. But it all works well together. It flows great. I think my favorite is easily 10 Years Gone on here. I think it's like almost the child of the Rain song with the stuff that Jimmy does on that song in particular. It really just, it has that sound. It has that vibe that I just want to sit back and let life stop around me and just let myself be absorbed by this beautiful music. Jimmy takes a lot of crap, but man, I don't care what he might have stolen, when, where, how, when he just sit down to play his guitar and come up with beautiful stuff like that. Wow, there was nobody like him. And into the more controversial picks, Presence from 1976. This came out bam bam the next year after Physical Graffiti. You know, the background, Robert Plant was injured and he came into the studio, hobbled up a bit. And so this was kind of a thrown together record in many ways. But I think it works well for that. It's not as all over the map as Physical Graffiti. It's a fairly focused album.
It's a
And
hard-edged album.
oh, absolutely. I mean, Achilles' Last Stand, that's a top 5 Zeppelin
Oh,
song.
sweet Jesus. Yes,
Wow.
yes.
The first time I heard that, I was only familiar with, the more popular albums and all the stuff that was getting played on the radio. Why in the world did I never hear Achilles' Last Stand on the radio? That blew my
Yeah.
mind. This song was out there and was not getting touched.
Just
So,
amazing.
but you go to the other end of the spectrum on there, T for One. I think it takes what was done on Zeppelin 3 with wow, I can't believe I'm having a brain fart on this one.
A senior
Excuse me.
moment.
Yes, I am here. One moment, please. It's a big obvious song too that Armando mentioned.
Since I've Been Loving You.
Yes, thank you. Okay, yeah.
Track 3,
This
side 1.
takes what Since I've Been Loving You did and makes it even better. So,
Okay.
and it's extended. It's even longer, so more bang for your buck.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
And you have great tracks like For Your Life. It's a hard rocker. You have Nobody's Fault But Mine, which was interestingly redone by Willie Nelson many years later.
Oh, really?
That little bit of trivia. Yeah, get it in your head.
Wow.
Yeah, so this album doesn't get near the love it deserves. It's just kind of forgotten by everybody but hardcore Zeppelin fans, pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it deserves to be part of the run. And then, of course,
I gotta find that Willie Nelson version now, dude. Now I'm curious.
You should find the Dolly Parton version of Stairway to Heaven.
No.
Ooh,
That's
I
a whole
struck a
other
nerve.
tangent.
Shake it off, Jim. Shake it off.
Okay.
Oh.
Sweet Jesus. Go on.
All right. The final of the 3, though, is In Through the Outdoor, which, yeah, it had some radio staples on it. Obviously, Fool in the Rain, All My Love, and to a lesser extent, In the Evening were played to death on the radio. I assume they probably still are.
Mm-hmm.
And deservedly so. These are great songs. I mean, Fool in the Rain, Bonham's drums on that are obviously ridiculous, but the whole song is just a gem. It's this album in particular it's famous for not having Jimmy in the studio so much and being, the John Paul Jones, Robert Plant album, more or less.
Yeah.
And it works well for it. It takes them into unexplored territory, and I like that a lot about it.
Yeah.
It leaves me curious what would have happened after had Bonham survived. There's been talk they might have gone back in a more hard rock direction.
Yeah, that was the talk. Yeah,
but that's all speculation on our part years later. So, but this album itself, though, I love how John Paul Jones comes to the fore here so much. He steps in and saves the day. You look at stuff like Carousel Umbra. Could you picture that on any other Zeppelin album.
Bloody hell. No.
Ah,
Nope.
it is very much of its time, and all the better for it. Yeah, this album screams 1979. It was one of those albums that was supposed to save the record industry in 1970, along with the Eagles and Fleetwood Mac, yada yada. But it is that album that is hated by many fans, or at least looked down upon, considered a lesser work. All My Love might be overplayed, but when you really get into it, it's not just a simple love song. It's not a romantic song. It's about Robert's son.
Eric.
And you look at it that, he'd lost his son in between these two albums. And yeah, that's, you lose a child. That's incomprehensible grief. And
Yeah.
he put it into this song. So yeah, next time you listen to All My Love, yeah, be aware of what it actually is about. And that adds much more depth to it.
Yeah.
All right. People talk crap about hot dog. Hot dog's fun. Leave it alone.
I
Leave
love
it
Hot Dog.
Yeah.
It's just a romp. It's just such a little party song.
What's wrong with a good romp?
Exactly. And when you have serious stuff like All My Love being such a downer, stuff like that, it's good to have that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this I think is one of the most perfect catalogs as far as studio albums. I think the 8 album Zeppelin run is right there with the 7 album original Steely Dan run and a few others. It just there is no bad album in the run. You could go degrees, but I could play back to back in order and be quite happy with it. So,
and there's something there for everybody.
yes, absolutely. They're all over the map,
And
which
it's
is
very
why they were
rare you
great,
can
which
see
is
that.
why the clone bands missed the point. Especially like the ones that came out in the 80s during the hair metal days. So, yeah, Kingdom Come, they did a lot more than what you're trying to ape here.
Yeah.
There were lots of different shades, lots of lightness that is missing in some of these hard rock bands that just want to redo a whole lot of love. So,
Yeah, I think one of your granddaughters agrees. I just heard her scream. That must be either
wow, I barely heard that myself. I guess this mic's really picking it up. Yeah.
I must agree with you. Yeah, no, good run of albums. Good choice there.
Exactly. And I think from as far as I'm concerned, it's probably maybe the most solid catalog of any rock band to me. I agree. There's not a bad song in the bunch. And ironically, it's one of those bands that my favorite tracks are not the singles. So, I mean, the the deep album cuts are just absolutely phenomenal.
Yep.
Yeah. No, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. All right. Ken, your choice.
Okay. I'm going to overlap with Jim from yesterday. And I'm going to go with Pat Metheny Group. I'm going to start with First Circle and continue on with Still Life Talking and Letter from Home. First Circle was my first Pat Metheny album. I had never heard of him. I was in college at the time. There was a guitar major that said, "Hey, you got to hear this album." And so I went into it totally blind. And of course, the first song off the album just, blew my mind in not necessarily a good way. But Forward March, it's just a bizarre album opener.
Mhm.
But anyway, after that, the incredible upbeat, Yolanda You Learn. And of course, I agree with Jim about the song First Circle. And that's used on YouTube as a first listen track for people that are discovering. And I haven't seen a single one where it didn't absolutely blow the listener's mind. listening to it. I also love the song Praise, and it's just a great album. Followed also Grammy winner for Best Jazz Fusion Performance. I mean, Metheny has ended up with, I think, 20 Grammy Awards. This was his last album with ECM Records. But anyway, going along to Still Life Talking in 1987, they made the jump from ECM to Geffen Records, which arguably gave them a wider coverage as far as distribution. This was also a Grammy winner for Best Jazz Fusion Performance.
Yeah.
Incredible. Probably the most famous song outside of Metheny fans, Last Train Home. It's been used in so many different marketing campaigns. I remember hearing it daily on the Weather Channel during the, updates on the 8s with that blue screen. And but what the heck? Minuano 6/8 is just an incredible song, and Third Wind is just,
amazing.
it can't be beat. Followed 2 years later by Letter from Home. And guess what? This was a Grammy winner for Best Jazz Fusion Performance. So 3 for 3. Great songs, Beat 70 Every Summer Night. Are We There Yet? Better Days Ahead. A lot of people refer to this as Still Life Talking Part 2. And I can see that, but to me, it still stands on its own. Each of the albums has a very specific flavor. I think the writing team of Metheny and Lyle Mays is unprecedented. They're wonderful on their own, but you put them together and writing together, it just, it transcends
Yeah.
Explodes.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree with Jim's choice yesterday, but I'll take it one step farther with First Circle, Still Life Talking, and Letter from Home. A true trifecta for the band.
Fantastic choice. Still Life Talking was my first Pat Metheny album ever. And Last Train Home was the reason why. 17 years old, watching that video and listening to music, I thought it blew my mind. This is bloody real. Good choice.
When I worked in a record store in the late 80s, and people would come in and want to have an interest in jazz, usually the first two records that I would recommend to them would be Kind of Blue and Still Life Talking. In the year and a half that I worked there, I never heard of anyone bringing them back and say this is crap.
Yeah.
And also during this time, they released a live performance on VHS called More Travels. I don't think it's that difficult to come by, but they haven't released it on DVD, which I'm very disappointed, because it's wonderful. It's not done. It's done in a studio setting, so you get really great camera work for each of the members as they're playing, and it's wonderful. I wish they put it out on DVD, especially Blu-ray.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Okay. No, perfect choices. Perfect choices. All of your choices have been fantastic. My run of 3 for day 5 is Jethro Tull. We're looking at the mid to late 70s here with the trilogy of albums, starting with Songs from the Wood, released February 7th, 1977. This started a run of 3 albums that are looked at as a folk trilogy. I just think that the production on these albums, first of all, it's been said by David Palmer, otherwise known as D. Palmer now, that Ian Anderson is in fact Jethro Tull in terms of control of the band, songwriting, instrumentation, arrangements, etc. Not that Martin Barr and the others didn't contribute, but I mean, he did have the final say on everything. Songs from the Wood, I mean, to me, these three albums, first of all, are very much seasonal albums. Even when you look at the cover from Songs from the Wood, he's sitting there in the clearing, with the trees behind him. It's very much a fall album. Okay. And the subject matter is very much of days of folklore and days of um days of yesteryear, like back in, jolly old England kind of thing, that kind of scenario with the title track, Jack in the Green, Cup of Wonder, Hunting Girl. Side one ends off with Ring Out Solstice Bells, which would be reworked for the Jethro Tull Christmas album. We'll get to that in another episode. Spoiler alert. The album is just simply fantastic. Velvet Green, The Whistler, I hope I say this right. Pibroch, Cup in Hand, and it ends with Fire at Midnight. Now, when I hear Fire at Midnight, I think, end of the day, you've been out in the woods doing what you're doing, chopping down trees or whatever, and you come home, you take off, your hunting gear and your clothes, and you just sit by a fire and you just want to relax and sleep by the fire for the evening. Just relax, right? That was followed up by Heavy Horses, released in April of 78. Again, and the fact that he recorded this album, Ian Anderson, and he had just started to develop a COPD. So you can hear it somewhat in his delivery. His delivery is slightly husky, right? In his vocal delivery, very, very slight, but you can hear it. And songs like No Lullaby on this album are just great. And The Mouse Police Never Sleeps, Acres Wild, Moths, which was a single from the album, Journeyman, which is fantastic. Again, Rover, One Brown Mouse, which was featured heavily during the touring cycle for this album. And the title track, clocking in at 8 minutes, 56 seconds. And forgive me, guys, Weathercock, final track on the album, okay?
It's a rooster.
It's a rooster.
It's a rooster. Come on.
And, he would finish off this trilogy with Stormwatch, released September 14th, 1979. Even when you look at the album cover, with the binoculars, the drawing of the binoculars with the storm coming in, the reflection of the binoculars. It is a winter album. There's a polar bear on the back of the album cover, for God's sake. Hello, it is what it is. Very much a winter's album. The instrumentation, the production on this is very strong. The drums come in very prominent on this album, as with the other two. Songs like Orion, Home, Dark Ages, a massive mammoth 9 minutes 7 seconds. I do like the fact that each side of this album is ended off with an instrumental. It's fantastic. Something's on the Move that starts off side 2, Old Ghosts, Dun Run Gill, the Flying Dutchman, and Elegy, and the instrumental written by Dave Palmer at the time, which was dedicated to his father who had just passed. Fantastic. Each of these albums for me represent a time when, in my opinion, Ian Anderson just was doing whatever the hell he wanted to do musically, which he always did. But these run of 3 albums for me represent the pinnacle of what he was doing. And for those of you who want to get the box sets, the book format box sets have been re-released. I think they're running through the second pressing of these sets. Each set has a full concert on them on CD and on video, depending on which set you have. And the remixes are done by Steven Wilson. So please get them. The Stormwatch box set has a second disc of unreleased stuff. And we are not talking just like I was going to say bootlegs. We're not talking like second generation or fifth generation demos. We're talking fully recorded, mixed, engineered, released tracks. This could have been released as a double album. Okay, and there was an 11-minute plus version of Dark Ages on the second disc. If you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of it, the nuggets of it. Fantastic albums. You guys really should check this out. Okay. And that is my pick for day 5 of Triple Play, Jethro Tull.
Just a quick mention that you could drop Bursting Out in there as the live album that came out in between Heavy Horses and
Yes.
Stormwatch, right?
Yes.
That's
yes.
another fantastic record.
Yes, I have the box set on my stack of sets here on top of the Robin Trower one set, and the Looney Tunes collection I still have sitting on my table here. But yes, all of these sets have been redone and remixed by Steven Wilson. Fantastic. But if you want to get, in my very, very humble opinion, Jethro Tull at their peak, these 3 albums, Songs from the Wood, Heavy Horses, and Stormwatch are the ones to get.
I would say your 3 are probably the best in terms of, because they basically are a trilogy. So that's probably the best 3 album run from that aspect, at least.
Yeah.
But I think Jethro Tull is another one of those bands. I considered them, but didn't put them in my picks. But I think they're another one of those bands who have multiple potential 3 album runs. The one I was probably most considering is Aqualung, Thick as a Brick, and Passion Play.
Yeah.
But I could take pretty much anywhere throughout the 70s into the early 80s. There's a lot of potential there for these guys. It's just such a great catalog there.
He would go on to record in 1980, release it, which was originally going to be a Ian Anderson solo album, but Chrysalis Records and Terry Ellis, head of Chrysalis, I should say Terry Ellis, said, no, it's going to be a Jethro Tull album for the selling factor alone, just to get the sales going. And it's good, but it was never going to be considered as part of my run of 3. There's just a different aspect to that album. He was going for more of a, I guess you'd say, slightly new wave pop sound, more mainstream.
Sure.
On A. And he hates, Ian Anderson hates the fact that he acquiesced to Terry Ellis to have it released as a Jethro Tull album. He thought it was a separate entity compared to the previous albums like Stormwatch, etc. So,
well, it's a little known fact that the album A was, the idea came from the old TV show Happy Days. Hey, really? From the font.
Oh, Fonzie.
All right. Jokes aside, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, day 5 of Triple Play. Please put down in the comments what you think of any band that you can think of that had a run of 3 great albums. Again, not perfect, but great albums. I want to thank Ken, Bill, and Jim for coming along with me on this succession of episodes, and more to come. And we'll be back with episode 6 of Triple Play. Please, again, click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Again, to keep yourselves on top of any new content I've got coming up. We'll see you soon for episode 6 of Triple Play. Have a good day. Bye for now.